Welcome to Small Cap Nation. I'm Jane King at the New York Stock Exchange. With me again, Michael Murkowski. We could talk for days about this, Michael, and negative interest rates, the overall economic environment that we're seeing globally right now. Let's start with NIRPs, negative interest rate policy set by central banks globally, and what parallels you see between that and the housing crisis.
Well, the parallels, first of all, the players in the housing crisis were the banks, were really the commercial banks in the United States. The players in the NIRP crisis are also the banks, but now we're talking about all the world's banks as well. Mm-hmm. But no, it's all the world's commercial banks.
Commercial banks, okay.
Right, this was really where the crisis is. It's same as what it was with them. So we have the same star players here in both the crises. The second thing that both crises have in common is there was a finite, the reason why I blew the whistle so many times between September of 2007 and October of 2008 in my Equities Magazine column is I saw there was a fixed amount of capital that could go in to keep the mortgage crisis going, and there was running out of capital to put in them, so I knew that was going to happen. It was inevitable. The same thing this time with the NIRPs, except there's a fixed amount of securities that are available to investors, and once those securities have gone, once those securities are all bought up and the negative interest rates go negative, the interest rates go negative for all the government, for the key three governments. See, the key is you want to own sovereign debt in a crisis, in a crisis, because of Japan, Germany, or the United States, because what happens is those securities are backed by the powers of the government to tax their people.
Okay.
Okay, you wouldn't want to own.
So you're talking about U.S. Treasuries?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to own you wouldn't want to own. Everybody in the world wants to own U.S. Treasuries, Japanese bonds, or German bonds. These are the three most conservative nations in the world, and they have the power to tax their people.
They know they're going to get their money back.
You would never want to buy sovereign debt of Greece.
Okay.
Nobody gets taxed in Greece.
Okay.
So if you look at the Great Depression, after the Great Depression, tax rates in the United States went to 90%. So if there's a crisis and the world goes to hell in a handbasket, who's going to pay you the money back? So you have everybody in the world wanting to buy, eventually is going to want to buy, treasury, it's called sovereign debt. And that's my concern, that's all this sovereign debt.
So if everybody's buying treasuries, the government needs to raise money, they tax their citizens, what happens to the economy with tax rates at that level?
The economy, if the negative interest rates the economy will go into a extended recession.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, is what's going to happen. If the interest rates stay negative, okay, and these central banks continue with their NIRPs, negative interest rate policies. Remember, I mentioned in the last show there's a difference between the two of them. If they remain negative, it's going to render the whole banking system dysfunctional, as I explained to you in our last segment.
So why aren't the banks doing anything about this?
The banks are powerless, the commercial banks. Okay? Because right now it's the market that's setting the negative rates. Okay, on the government, on the sovereign securities or the treasury securities of Japan, Germany, and the United States. Right now, Germany is negative. The whole ECB is negative, okay? Japan is negative. The only country left that has a sufficient quantity of securities that are positive are the United States. So what's going to happen is eventually everybody in the world is going to come in and buy United States treasuries until the point they go negative. And when they go negative, the commercial banks, as I explained in my last segment, they don't have nowhere to put their reserves.
Do you have a timeline when you see this unfolding? 2, 3, 5, 10 years?
No, I think it has to unfold this year.
Okay.
Because the negative rates are spreading every day. Japan just went to the lowest interest rates in history yesterday. Okay, Japan did on its yields, on its treasuries.
This is the market rate.
So the lower, the more the spread widens, the more negative the rates become, and the more securities that are gobbled up. the more insidious it is, because really, here's the way you got to think of it. Okay, sovereign bonds and treasury securities are insurance policies. Okay, so if you're Lloyd's of London, there's only so much insurance you can provide based upon your reserves. So it's the same thing. Once all the bonds of the world are gobbled up and go to negative interest rates, the banks are rendered dysfunctional. So I don't see, that's why Japan, when they came out and announced this, is why there's so much volatility and so much controversy, is because you now have two of the three major countries in the world, most fiscally conservative countries that can tax the people, have gone negative. That's what's scary.
Now, is there a black swan type strategy that someone can do to deal with this, to ride this?
Well, I would strongly recommend that, the problem that most people have, especially Americans, is we believe that, that the dollar's worthless. I mean, you hear all this stuff, people send you all this stuff. And why would you want to invest in the United States government treasuries? Okay, and I'm explaining why you want to do that. Okay. Because here's what happens. You got to look at it this way. If you're in Spain and you're a wealthy family in Spain and you have $100 million of assets, and you're afraid, okay, that your assets are going to be dissipated, where are you going to put your money? You're going to put your money into a country that has the power to collect the taxes on the people. That's Germany, Japan, and the United States. So I really strongly suggest anybody go to my website, dynastywealth.com. There's research reports on this. I'm pumping them out as fast as I can. It'll explain this, and take the time to read. Don't call your financial advisor and ask him about it. He doesn't know anything about it. And besides the point, they have a vested interest, the financial advisors, wealth managers, to basically keep you in the market. You need to go and do your own homework, go look at the research reports that I'm writing. I'm trying to make them as simple as possible on this issue.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add? We've got about a minute or so left. I know this is a complicated topic, but anything you'd like to add to wrap up your thoughts on this?
I think that the key is again, it's a situation where, no, there's not really, I think I've said enough right now.
Okay.
And
well, I have a question then.
Yeah.
Where do you put money in this kind? I mean, U.S. Treasuries. I mean, what about?
Well, let me tell you about a black swan strategy. A black swan strategy was created by a guy who had a bestseller book on the New York Times for 37 straight weeks. Okay, and his name and his philosophy is very simple. He's made a lot of money in crashes in the markets. Put 80-90% of your money in treasury, sovereign debt, and put the balance in high-risk assets. So you should be putting 80-90% of your money in sovereign debt, United States treasuries, and the remaining you should be putting in venture capital, small cap stocks, high risk stocks is what you should be putting the rest of it in. Stocks that have huge upside potential and have a diversified portfolio. At Dynasty Wealth, that's what I started, that's how I founded Dynasty Wealth, is to find companies that have the potential of multiplying by 10 to 100 times in 5 years. By the way, in any kind of economic environment, companies like that are going to thrive. It's like when the Great Depression occurred, you had Zenith you had radio come up in the Great Depression. You had all kinds of companies come out of the Great Depression where people put their money in and made a fortune while everybody was, during the Great Depression, because the new technology is where you want to invest. So yeah, that's the black swan strategy. And on our website, we have we've got free information. We recommend companies on the site that are public companies that you can go invest in. That doesn't cost you anything. And of course, we got the NERP crash indicator on the site too. And you need to read about that too. Your viewers need to read about that as well.
Okay, dynastywealth.com.
Dynastywealth.com.
Okay. Thank you very much, Michael, for sharing this important information, and hopefully we'll talk again soon. And thank you as well for joining us on Small Cap Nation.